A shiny fret is a happy fret. A happy fret is a happy guitar player. Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars and you're watching another one of my YouTube guitar building videos. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope that you'll find this video to be entertaining and educational, and by the end of the video, you'll consider subscribing because hey, it's free and subscribing helps the channel grow. Plus, you'll learn some things. And if you read the comments that folks leave on all my videos, it's almost like going to a luthier school without having to pay the outrageous tuition. In today's episode, I'm going to be covering part 15 of my Delta guitar build. And this is the build where I'm combining the features that I like in a headless guitar with a guitar that's going to have a headstock. And where I left off in episode 14 is I had done most all of the fret work. I had leveled the frets, I'd crowned them, dressed them, and was starting to sand out the tool marks that are left by the files. So I'm going to continue that process, polish up the frets, then I'm going to string the guitar and start adjusting the intonation. So let's jump in and get started. After leveling the frets, I'm pretty confident that I won't have any issues with string buzz, but the process of leveling and crowning and then dressing the ends leaves tool marks that the files generated, and I need to get rid of those. So what I'll do is I'll start with about a 400 grit sandpaper. I may back down to 320 depending on how severe the scratches are, but then I'll work my way up to 400, then 600, 800, and then I'll finish with 1000 grit. Back in the olden days, I would use a Dremel with a small buffing wheel and some metal polishing compound to bring up the final mirror-like high shine on my frets. I then moved on to using my bigger buffing machine because it was a lot faster. However, there's a problem with those tools, and that is they generate a lot of heat, and that heat can break the bond of the glue that I use to glue in the frets, which in turn can cause the frets to lift up in the slots. So to prevent that from happening, you started using a different technique where I rub out the top of the frets using a Norton synthetic abrasive pad. And I found that by using a 3/0 abrasive pad followed by the 4/0 abrasive pad, I was getting about the same quality of shine that I was getting with the buffing wheel, but it's a lot faster and it doesn't generate the heat. After polishing the frets, I removed all the masking tape and I took a sanding stick with some 600 grit sandpaper and just lightly worked the edges of the fretboards where they meet the edges of the frets just to clean up any residue that might remain from all the fretwork I did. After restringing the guitar, I needed to check the state of level of the fretboard. And of course, to do that, I used my notch straight edge and feeler gauges, checking to see what kind of relief there is at the 8th or 9th fret. Now, normally I like to keep my fretboards level, but for this particular build, I needed to add about 0.010 of an inch of relief right at about the 8th and 9th fret. So I did that and adjusted the truss rod in order to achieve that amount of relief. Before I continue with the setup, I'm going to let the guitar sit for a couple of days, but each day I'll pick up the guitar and check to make sure that the strings are in tune and adjust if necessary. And then I'll play the strings up and down the fretboard. And this kind of gives a chance for the guitar to get settled in, to get the strings stretched out, and to get it into a nice place for what I need to do next. Intonation is the next step, and it's a lot easier than people make it out to be. All you're trying to do is match the strings pitch when it's fretted at the 12th fret with its pitch when you play the 12th harmonic. So when you press the string to the 12th fret, if it sounds sharp, you would move the bridge saddles back towards the rear of the guitar. If the pitch is flat, you would move the saddle slightly forward, and you'll do this in small increments until you get the pitch exactly the same. Of course, you're going to do this with all the strings on the guitar, and once you're done, the guitar is basically intonated. It's not perfect, but it's going to be enough to make the guitar sound much, much better than it would if you didn't intonate the strings. At this point, the guitar is basically finished. I only have one other component to install, which I'll do shortly. However, what I need to do now is I'm going to play the guitar acoustically. Each string at each fret, I'll do some string bending. Sometimes I'll stand, sometimes I'll sit, I'll move around. What I'm trying to do is to see if the guitar can be forced into playing poorly. Now, by that I mean, in most cases, string buzz at some point on the fretboard. If I can do that, I'll know I need to go back and make some adjustments, doing some spot leveling, recrowning, and repolishing to get the guitar so that it sounds really good no matter what position I'm in when I'm playing it. And as luck would have it, this guitar sounded perfect. I couldn't force string buzz no matter what I did. So now I'm ready to install that final component, the strap buttons. Well guys, we are 6 minutes into this video and the guitar is now completely finished. It's done, finally. So what I'm going to do is, this is part 15. I'm going to make another episode, part 16, in about a week. And in that video, I'm going to talk about what I like about this guitar, a couple of little things that I'm not too keen on. They aren't major, but I'm also going to talk about what I might do differently if I was to build another version of this guitar. This was a real learning experience for me. You know, almost every guitar I build is to some degree a learning experience because I always like to try new ideas and test new things. And that's what I did with this guitar by combining the features that I like from a headless guitar with a guitar that has a headstock. So there's a few things that I've learned from doing this that I'll share with you in that next episode. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave you with some photos, some still shots of this finished guitar so you can see up close how it turned out. Now I know some of you are going to want to know, well, what does the guitar sound like? I get that all the time. But as I've said repeatedly, I don't do audio samples that I upload to the internet, whether it's YouTube or social media. That is wildly inaccurate. Because as you know, the way a guitar sounds is going to depend on your playing style as well as the equipment that you're playing through. And in my case, I have the addition of the equipment I use to record the audio, the microphone, the software that processes the audio. And then of course, once that's all done, it has to be compressed and uploaded to YouTube. So by the time it gets there, it's not going to sound the way that, well, it'll sound the way I expect it to. However, if you were to base a purchasing decision on that audio, once you got the guitar and plugged it into your equipment, you're going to discover it sounds completely different. So that's why I don't do that. A lot of the guys who buy my guitars are hardcore guitar players, collectors, and traders. They know that this is a market where you can buy a guitar, and if it doesn't sound exactly the way you want it to, or it doesn't feel quite right, you can always sell it or trade it for something else. No big deal. Now I realize that's not everybody. A lot of folks don't like to play in that sandbox, but for those who do, it opens up a whole world of possibilities. And if you're one of those types, you know that your guitar collection is constantly changing over as you try new guitars. Now some of those folks are chasing after the ultimate perfect guitar. So when you buy a guitar and it doesn't sound quite right or doesn't feel quite right, and you go to either sell it or trade it, you might lose a little bit of money in that deal. Well, you could make some money too, as some of you will attest to. But there's a good chance you may lose a few $100 on a deal like that. If that's the case, you have to look at that money as the cost of searching for that perfect guitar. Because who knows, when you buy this guitar, it may turn out to be the greatest guitar you've ever owned or played. You may weep with joy the minute you hold it in your hands and strum it for the first time. You never know. And that's the cost. You know, if you decide it isn't perfect and you have to sell it or trade it and you lose a little bit of money, that's the cost of that search. And a lot of the guys that I sell to understand that. And then of course there is the issue of distraction. I could have Steve Vai playing my guitar through a really good amplifier and speaker with the best microphone and the best audio capturing software. And there's going to be the distraction of what he is playing versus the way the guitar actually sounds. And that can kind of prejudice your decision about the guitar, because you'll hear Steve Vai play it and think, wow, that guitar sounds amazing. Then you would get it into your hands, and because you're not Steve Vai, it's not going to sound the same, and that can lead to some disappointment. And that also leads into the whole issue of trolls. YouTube is full of trolls. I know, because they constantly troll my comment section of my videos. And what the trolls like to do is complain about the playing style. They also like to complain about whether or not the guitar's in tune. Now, they've been doing this for decades, and they think it's funny and that they're being clever without realizing most of us who are watching this video, well, first of all, we probably aren't going to read the comments, because that's what the statistics tell me. But when you do read those comments, at least my reaction is, oh God, here we go again, the same old tired joke. So it starts to sound pathetic after a while. I realize I went off on a bit of a tangent there, and I apologize for the rant. If you still want to hear what this guitar sounds like, here you go. That's both pickups selected, playing through a tube amp on a clean setting. So I've tried to eliminate every facet of playing style and technique except for the pick attack. And hopefully that will give you an idea of what the guitar sounds like. And at the very least, it will tell you the guitar works. And that's what's most important. So with that, I'm going to leave you with some close-up photos of the guitar so that you can see what the finished instrument looks like. And until the next episode, as always, take care, stay safe, click the thumbs up button. If you're new to this channel and would like to see more of my YouTube guitar building videos, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you soon.